From the Dirt Mound Studios in Springfield, Illinois, Pop Culture Network presents Formers Friday with your host, the man with the face only a dog could love, Dirt. Yes, thank you, overdub voice man. How nice of you to give me such a wonderful introduction today. I don't know you, but thank you for that wonderful, brilliant job. Today here on Formers Friday, we are going to be taking a look at Junkheap and Wreck-Gar. We've got them back there. You can take a look back in the photo tent. These are, of course, guys that first debuted in the animated film. Fantastic characters. And I never had the original G1 versions, but thanks to my buddy Nick Ochoa, sold me these a couple of years ago. These are the 2011 versions. And so I've got them back here today. We're going to take a look at them. But I do want to note something. These are so much easier to transform from motorcycle to robot than from robot to motorcycle. It's because of that they are in motorcycle form so that I can transform them into robots on the show today and not look like too much of an idiot. The transforming them back into the motorcycle form is a lot more difficult than it should be. And it's just because of the weird joints it has, the way things fold over and fold back on themselves, the way certain things have to tab in. Certain pieces have to move at the same time to fit together, which makes it really difficult, especially for an old guy like me. So we're going to transform them from motorcycles to robots, but not back. Not on this broadcast. So let's hop into the photo tent and take a look at these guys. And first, if you take a look at their motorcycle form here, they look pretty good. One of the things that may stand out to you, depending on how high a quality you're viewing this video, is the handlebars and mirrors. These were in storage in plastic bags in a box, and so the rubberized handlebars and mirrors didn't quite hold up that well. They got pushed around and bent and folded over. But, you know, hopefully it's one of those things where with enough time and love, they will be able to come back to their former glory. The other thing that you've just witnessed is the problem with the kickstands. Depending on how you put them together and how well you fold things and snap things together, the kickstands don't always want to work that well, and you do have to kind of fight with them to get them to sit upright. It's just one of those things that's kind of a pain in the butt. It's not really that big of a deal. But, I mean, the less hassles and less headaches with one of these things, the better. But I think what stands out the most, this is probably the number one easy thing for everyone to notice, is that they are, in fact, the exact same figure. Junkheap does have the racing stripe, whereas Wreck-Gar has the flames. Wreck-Gar also has one of these temperature, I forget what you call them, but the temperature sensitive changing symbols. You rub your thumb on it and the Autobot symbol appears, whereas Junkheap does not. And I'm not sure why one does and the other does not. You'd kind of think that they would both do it, but they don't. It's weird. The other thing that's weird to me is the use of clear plastics. We have a tiny, like, worthless little windshield thing on here, and it's clear. But on Junkheap here, it's clear where the headlight would be. And you'd almost think if you were going to have the clear headlight, you'd put the clear top on it so you could have the light piping effect going through. I know some people don't like the light piping. I like it, generally speaking. It just gives you a bunch of clear heads sometimes, but for the most part, I like the idea of being able to shine the light and have things come through like that. And for whatever reason, they decided, well, you know, we'll just have one guy be clear on the top and one guy clear on the front and leave it at that. And you almost have to wonder, well, why not? Like, why bother, I guess, if you're going to do clear and it doesn't mean anything? I don't know. Just one of those weird things. But obviously, you look at this and you see a motorcycle. This is not one of those times where you have to use too much of your imagination to try to put together what exactly this is. You know, sometimes they turn into a weird car or a jet or something, and you really have to strain your mind in order to make the connection. These, it's very clear, these are off-roading motorcycles. Meant to do some mudding. For the most part, the robot pieces are hidden. The only thing, of course, really is the cod piece. I mean, you can pretty much see that one a mile away. But the hands stick out here. And you can see the hands on both of them. Makes, man, like I said, these are hard to stand up. Makes for it hard to hide the fingers. I mean, they're pretty obvious sitting there. And if you saw when they fell over, of course, the heads are stuck on the bottom. That gives somebody a nightmare if they saw that. But I think for the most part, these do look pretty good in motorcycle form. Again, the kickstands are so difficult. And when the kickstand is out of the way and it's allowed to roll, it does roll very well. So if you've got a little kid that wants to roll with them, play them like that. One thing, you can take some of the figures and set them on the back of them. There is the seat piece is small enough. You can see it's very narrow here at the top and just kind of tapers out. So it is possible to set some of the other guys on top. And it's very close to being the right size for a lot of characters. It's not 100% correct, but like if I were to take Wheeljack here, I can kind of make him fit. If you play around with him a little bit and turn him up, he can grab onto the handlebars. He more or less can fit and ride on it. So if you did want to play around with some of that type of stuff with your displays, with figures, you can do that. So let's just take a guy here real quick and let's hop out and take a look at the transformation process. So of course we have our motorcycle, and the main thing to remember here when taking off the back part is that there is a little U-hook that snaps on there. So it's going to feel really tough when you go to pull them off the first time. If you forget that that's there, like, oh my gosh, am I breaking this thing? But you're really not. And it turns into his weapon, which is kind of like this weird battle axe thing. Now, you can pull it straight. It will straighten. But to make it look more like it's pieced together junk, most people tend to leave it like that. I've seen it on display that way. And that way it just looks more like pieces randomly thrown together. But what we do is basically break it, is what it feels like. You flip up the wheel there, and you kind of pull all these little pieces apart. So he's flying all over the place. And once you do that, you can kind of see how he starts to fit together into his robot mode. And it is pretty simple to pull him apart and put him in this style into the robot. Like I said, it's not too bad this way. The hard part really comes when the feet have to come back together in the midsection in order to create the seat and everything. That's where it really has a lot of difficulty. But as far as putting this figure together, there's a lot of tabs. So, you know, it's pretty clear where things fit together. You can put them together easily. And you can put your robot together rather quickly. Not too terrible. So let's hop back here into the photo tent and we'll set him down. Now, one of the weird things is that you can see, taking a look at his legs, is just how thick this leg is compared to that one. And they are not entirely level. For one leg to be flat, the other one comes off the ground just a little bit. So you just have to kind of fight with it till you get it about the right way to how you want it to look. Kickstand up there on the shoulder, push it back, and there is Wreck-Gar. Pull up a little bit so you can get a better look at him. And we can take his weapon, and the weapon can go in his hand like you would expect, or because it has this nifty little catch piece on the back, there's actually a spot here where it can snap on, and you can tuck it away back there, and that way you don't lose it, which is a great feature because I am known to lose things that don't attach themselves. So taking another look at the robot figure, you can see that this suffers from a lot of kibble issues. You can definitely see the wheels, which you see on a lot of Transformers, but the handlebars, the instrument panel for when he's riding around as a motorcycle, all of those are so obvious when he's in robot form that he's, you can't argue the way you can with some other Transformers that he was something else before they decided to turn him into a motorcycle piece. But you know what? It works for these guys because these guys came from a planet of junk. And the idea is that they just took whatever pieces they had lying around and were able to build themselves the bodies that you see. So they weren't worried so much about trying to blend in as being more than meets the eye, as much as being robots that had this alternate mode that allowed them to do other fantastic creative things, like, I don't know, kill other robots and turn them into junk for them to steal pieces of. So when you look at his body type altogether, it is obvious that there's a motorcycle underneath, but for these guys, it kind of works. And I have to give credit to Wreck-Gar just for having that awesome Fu Manchu. I mean, seriously, look at that facial hair. That is something of beauty. It is hard nowadays to find somebody that dedicated in their facial appearance, not to do some kind of crazy, like hipster lumberjack type of thing, but to go with the straight Fu Manchu. That is some hard work. And now here is Junkheap to go with them. And again, you can see they are the exact same figure, just colored differently, and with a different head. So Junkheap does have a different head sculpt to go with him. So he's not 100% the same because they gave him a new head. And that makes him basically a whole new character, right? Now, earlier we talked about the light piping, how I wish it went from the windshield into the headlight. These guys do have light piping in their head. If I can get it to come up and kind of focus. Nope. That's about as good as it's going to go. If I can bring the light down. Let me see if I can get this to work right. But if you look, the back of his head is clear. You can just see up here how it's completely clear. And the idea is it's supposed to catch the light. That light's not going to do it. Let me grab this light here. Bring it in. So you can kind of see he's lighting up there. The camera's having some focus issues because, of course, the light is overpowering everything else. But the light piping there going into his eyes, you can kind of see how they light up. And they light up on Junkheap too. Junkheap, though, his eyes, because his head sculpt is different, his eyes are different, and it doesn't quite work as well. If you get a good look at it, his eyes are open almost like a visor, and the eyes are just painted onto the clear part, whereas on Wreck-Gar, they actually have the different eyes sculpted. I just, oh man, we had a good focus there for like half a second. If I take this one out, oh, there we go. All right, kind of. Okay, there you go. You can see his eyes are separated. So when the light shines through, the eyes will glow individually. Whereas here, Junkheap's eyes focus. It will not focus. It hates me today. If you could see that, you could see that it's just a straight piece of clear plastic with some red painted on it to give it eyes. But overall, when you look at this figure, what stands out most to me, of course, are the screws. The screws always look bad. That's always the thing that, pulls you out of that suspension of disbelief. If they could have just painted them or, done something a little better to hide them. But as far as the actual pieces go, I know a lot of people are bothered by the hollowness that's in a lot of Transformers these days. It's just a cost-cutting measure. Uses less plastic, so it's better for the environment, whatever. But it does make these kind of funky areas. But with guys like this who are made out of junk that they, just kind of salvaged themselves, it's not as much of an issue. The screws are more of an issue than those parts being hollow for me, just because of the way the screws look. Because you would assume, obviously on a guy like this, he's got like little rivets on his chest. You can see the little points of there. So there are screw things, screw type material that are on there holding the pieces together. It's just that, you know, if you're going to have screws this big, I mean, these are like giant, like railroad spikes turned into screws or something, you know, whatever. I do like the characters. I think they look really good as robots. I think they look really good as motorcycles. I just wish the transformation back to the motorcycle worked a little better. It's really tough. These joints here in the crotchal region are tough to kind of pull apart and manipulate and get them to fold over and twist the way you need them to. It really gets, especially once you're trying to slam them together and get things to clip when they're in the motorcycle mode, that it becomes most apparent that it's almost impossible to get them to work right. But the transformation process aside, I think they look really good either way. And like I said, these were from 2011. I'm not sure what line that was. I don't think that was Universe. I forget which one it was, but 2011 is a time period. So you can actually find these pretty cheap. Most of the place, just go on eBay, Amazon. Transformerland is another one. You can find a lot of these guys most of the time. Just, again, be careful with the little rubberized mirrors and handlebars. You can have a really tough situation there with some of those because they bend very easily, and if they stay bent for any period of time, you know, starting with a couple hours going on to however long I had them sitting there, it'll take a very long time for them to, you know, straighten back out. But a little bit of, you know, hair dryer on them to heat them up and kind of straighten them back out will work, no big deal. But I don't know. I always like Wreck-Gar a little bit more. One, because he was the main character. Two, I like the flaming detail on there. A little bit more than Junkheap, who is just more plain. Wreck-Gar looks more like the leader that he's supposed to be. Junkheap is your army builder type guy. But I don't know, maybe you guys feel differently. Perhaps you like Junkheap better for some reason. Maybe you like the red more than the brown. Maybe you like his smaller little Hulk Hogan, Fu Manchu type of facial hair instead of the massive one that we've got over here. I don't know. Let me know. Tell me in the comments. Leave me a message on Twitter. Do something along those lines. Or don't, because you don't want to. Or maybe you do. Great. Whatever. So anyway, guys, like I said, I like these guys. They're a lot of fun. You can even put one on top of the other when one's, you know, in the motorcycle mode and have him drive his buddy around. It's good times. It's fun stuff. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Don't forget to go to popculturenetwork.com. If you want just the toy stuff, you can go to thatnewtoysmell.com, which is part of the Pop Culture Network. If you want to see comic book stuff, you can go to ineedcomics.com, part of the Pop Culture Network. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.